What's going on, everybody? This is Raw Dawg Sports. I'm Mike. That is Evo. Producer Amber is backstage in case we need her because we're going to be going over a lot of information today. But man, I am happy. And Mama says that happiness comes from magical rays of sunshine that come down when you're feeling blue. But I'm very happy to be here today. I had a great therapy session. Now I get another one with my guy, Evo. We're here to talk a lot of sports today, brother. How you doing? How you been? It's been about a week since we've talked. How you feeling, brother?
Man, I'm tired. We just started a monsoon schedule at work, so getting up way early in the morning. Yeah. Also had to send the boys back to Ohio, so that that always fucking sucked. And get back from bringing them to the airport and everything. And of course, the air conditioner goes out. Arizona's in the hundreds daily right now, so it was a sweltering like 87 degrees in the house. Which, sucks balls for a good 24 hours or so. But as of right now, everything is fixed. As you can see, I am in a hoodie.
So, I was going to ask, it's like clearly the air conditioning is back on with the hoodie on.
Yeah, as of right now, we are working good. Still assessing what the full issue is. But as of right now, we're all right. So I'm pretty happy about that. But yeah, man, like it's good to be back. Getting more and more excited by the day because again, we have actual football by the end of the month. I don't know about your Cleveland Browns, but my Minnesota Vikings quarterbacks report a week from Sunday. So training camp is right around the corner in games. And then we had college football come out 26.
Yes, we did
play college football 25 because it was only on consoles and I don't have any of the modern consoles. I might have gone to Best Buy yesterday and bought one, including college football 25.
Let's go.
Already fucking gotten through in a season. So yeah. So that's
are you gonna get on and do any of the Ultimate Team?
I have no idea. That's like the only thing I've done is the Road to Glory so far.
Got it.
Did a full season on Road to Glory as of right now. Won a natty with the Gophers. Who knows what's going to happen from there? I have to figure the game out because it's all brand new to me. I didn't get to play last year.
Yeah.
So having a lot of fun with that.
If you do decide to get on Ultimate Team, let me know. We'll squad up and go murk some fools.
All right. The one thing I've noticed so far is that like pressure in that game is insane all the time.
Oh God, dude. Yeah, you got to get rid of the ball. You got to understand the route concepts, know where to look.
Yeah, you have to be able to. It's the first time I think in a football game that I've truly had to assess in real time. Am I seeing zone? Am I seeing man? Is that going to work with the route concept that is currently active?
The center field open, is center field closed.
And all that while in the periphery trying to keep track of defensive ends who are closing down on you constantly. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
It's a great game. Love it. Not a sponsor. It could be. We could, we could be featured in college football. That'd be super dope.
Look, that would be fantastic if they wanted to sponsor us. But, I actually was going to try something different here. Look, this is cease and desist or get a sponsor one way or the other. But we're going to start doing some of these ad reads. So today's show is sponsored by Dunkin. That's right. We dropped the donut out of our name because we're more than a mid-tier at best donut. We're also mid-tier coffee, mid-tier breakfast meals, and mid-tier service. You don't like it? Go fuck yourself. They call us Dunkin because we be dunking on nuts in your motherfucking mouth like with the 07 Patriots. But don't mention Eli Manning or the Giants. Tom Brady, Ben Affleck, Dunkin. All prominent whites in the Boston area. Come see how many of our donuts you can fit in your tiny little dick. Dunkin' Donuts is not an actual sponsor of Raw Dawg Sports.
That was great. That was fantastic. Well done, Evo. Well done.
We're just going to start doing ad reads for shit.
Fucking smack pack.
Until we either get a cease and desist order, which would be great clout, or someone wants to actually sponsor. Maybe we drum something up. I feel like Arby's would be good with us because they like to talk a lot of shit on the internet.
Yeah, that's very true. Listen, I love talking shit on the internet. One of my favorite pastimes.
Absolutely. It's fun. It's a little testy out there sometimes.
Things can get a little crazy. But listen, we just had the 4th of July. That's what this country's built on. It's getting a little fiery, getting a little antsy. Also, it's about eating a lot of fucking hot dogs. Our boy Joey Chestnut made his return to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest and demolished. I don't think there was any question. I was calling for the record. He didn't quite get there, but he puts down it puts down over 70 dogs again. I believe he is still the only man to put down 70 dogs. He more than doubled the women's. Joey Chestnut is the greatest gobbler of wieners that's ever existed.
Yeah, he's phenomenal at putting that meat in his mouth and just letting it slide down raw. But look, I have to admit, I just had 2 glizzies myself. That was my quick dinner. Just a couple of them Nathan hot dog glizzies real quick because, like I said, follow up from last episode. Fucking those hot dogs are amazing. So I went out and bought more.
Nice.
I'm on a hot dog kick right now, bro.
So our baseball season just ended. So hot dogs will probably be a little bit less of a theme, but during baseball season, we do a lot of hot dogs. That's where I get into like the Chicago dogs and start mixing it up because when we got, game from 6 to 8, and then there's another game that started at 7:30 that'll get done at 9. I'm just trying to fucking get in where I fit in to getting a meal. So give me a couple glizzies down the gullet.
Yeah, some quick street meat to fucking cure the hunger and get you on your way. It's mobile. It's ready to go. It's already shaped, ready to go down your throat. Correct. Perfect. Not like any other type of meat that I'm aware of, but it is fantastic.
All right. So let's transition off of Joey Chestnut. I don't know if there's anything else to really say about Joey other than he's fucking spectacular. And I love watching him on July 4th.
Yeah. Easily on the top 10 American athletes list, if not number 1.
Yeah. When you consider the dominance, possibly the greatest American champion of all time. But let's transition over into baseball. We'll start with the youth baseball. And man, the baseball season is finally over for us. But God, did it have its moments. We had a really, really tough season. We just did not throw enough strikes. We were a very, very young team. So we went on a terrible losing streak. We finished the regular season with a 2-11 record. Just not good. But for our league, luckily, everybody makes the playoff. And I told our boys that our goal, and I'm sorry if some of the parents are watching. I thank you for watching, but I told them that our intent was to fuck somebody's season up. Because I didn't think that we had a real legit shot to go and maybe win a title, but we could definitely play spoiler. And boy, did we in that first game of the playoffs. One of the greatest experiences I've ever had as a coach and as a father. Our team battled. We were behind the entire game. We finally get down to the 6th inning. We play 7-inning games in our group. We're in the bottom of the 6th inning. They have the lead, and we have 7 minutes to get 3 outs because there's also a time limit. If we get to 8, if it hits 8 o'clock and we are still in the 6th inning, game is over. So our boys scrambled and they got 3 outs in 6 minutes. We had about 30 seconds left on the clock. Producer Amber was keeping track for us when it happened. So we got to transition down by 4 runs. Started getting a couple of hits. Kid gets walked. And then Graydon, my son, comes up to bat. At this point, we are down by 3 runs. We've scored a couple, and we are starting to really tee off on this pitcher. A mound visit happens right before the at bat. Graydon says ball slightly outside, middle of the plate, and he absolutely pissed on it. Dead center field, about 260. The only bad thing is that the center field fence is 265. Center fielder tried to make a hell of a play, went back, got his glove on it, but went down. And then Graydon, who is not a fast individual, decided to unhook the trailer and got that guard's body moving around the around the bases and hit a legit inside the park grand slam to give us the lead. We held on in the bottom of the 7th. We got a massive win that really kind of changed the dynamic of the way the kids I felt about the season, because it's tough when you have a losing season. Nobody likes losing. Like, we can talk about youth sports, pro sports, college. It doesn't matter what level you are. Sure, the game is supposed to be fun, but winning is way more fun than losing will ever be. So the fact that we were able to go in, spoil somebody's season, and also that my son was, really the catalyst behind that, I was very, very proud.
Yeah, dude. That when you told me about that, like I was so happy for you, for Graydon, for the team, because like, one, everyone likes kind of an underdog story. Two, getting to play spoiler is one of those things that it's like, it does kind of change the vision on the season. It's like, we might have not been the greatest, but we did do something that matters. Like, it's like if you got a tiny dick and you make a girl come with that
There
dick,
you go.
you're like, whoa. I'm not that I would know anything about that. I wouldn't, like, obviously massive hog, but
Clearly.
but like, you got to take your wins when you can get them, and that legitimately translates to what you had happen. Look, I've never had it in the park home run, rarely seen them when I played baseball. That's like a super cool thing to have happen regardless of the situation, but to then have that happen in a pivotal game like that in the playoffs, it probably did change the season for those kids. It probably showed them, like, you should never, like, just give up on the season. Like, never call it quits, continue to compete, because you can have a relatively magical moment like that. That's pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we have a thing, I stole it from Ted Lasso, but one of my players had this made for me as well. Our mantra is to just believe, man. Believe in yourself, believe in your teammates, believe in what it is that we are working on, because that will take you way farther than just, raw ability. You have to know that you can do it. Otherwise, you're not even going to try. So believing in yourself, that's my, my sentimental coach part of me, trying to get these young men to, grow into, mature adults who believe in themselves and are going to do great things. But I'm going to get off of that. I already cried once today in therapy. I don't even talk about that anymore. Anyways, let's continue to talk about baseball, though, because All-Star Weekend is right around the corner, man. We got a lot of new names in some of this All-Star list. We got some old names. We got some new additions to the All-Star game. So let's get into it. Let's start talking just about who's on this roster, because it is a loaded roster. Guys that have hit a ton of bombs, starting with the American League. Cal Raleigh, I think 36 home runs, will also be a participant in the home run derby. Vlad Guerrero Jr., Gleyber Torres, Junior Caminero is going to be replacing Jose Ramirez, who decided to opt out. I understand, Jose. Try to focus on the second half. Appreciate that. But you also got Jacob Wilson of the Athletics, young kid. Aaron Judge, Riley Green of Detroit, Javier Baez of Detroit, making it as an outfielder. Ryan O'Hearn as your DH. Your reserves, you got your Alejandro Kirk, Jonathan Aranda, Alex Bregman, man, it's been there before. Jazz Chisholm, Brandon Lowe, Jeremy Pena, Bobby Witt Jr., surprised did not get more votes. Isaac Paredes, Zach McKinstry, Byron Buxton, your boy, Stephen Kwan, my guy, Julio Rodriguez, and Brent Rooker for the position players. Any names that kind of stand out that are like, man, I'm surprised he made it. Man, how'd this guy not make it? I know the biggest thing for me when I'm looking at this was Bobby Witt. Jacob Wilson is a fantastic player, but Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be one of the, well, it will depend. Has the ability to be one of those faces of baseball. He's so toolsy, but being in Kansas City is going to be tough. Jacob Wilson, I don't know where they're going to be. I think it's going to be Las Vegas at some point, but I don't know, anything for you, brother?
It's less about the players that are on there, but more about the guys that didn't make it. You having like Trey Turner not making it, Juan Soto, Rafael
That's just the
Devers,
American League. I didn't give you the National League yet.
Well, I'm just saying, like, because I'm way more passive with it because I know you probably want to breeze over it, but your Guardians are in 4th place right now, and my Twins are in 3rd, and everyone is a heavy arm's length away from the Detroit Tigers in the Central right now. Closest being the Royals at 13 games back, but like in general, just with this, it's more about the snubs for me than the guys who made it because I'm happy for the people who made it. I generally feel like the guys who make the All-Star game are deserving. It's very few and far between that you see guys on there that really don't deserve it. It's more about the guys that didn't make it that probably were more deserving to some of the guys that made it.
All right. And on to the pitchers for the American League. Hunter Brown, Chris Bubic, Garrett Crochet, Jacob deGrom, Max Fried, I'm not sure how you say his first name, Kikuchi of the Angels, Tarek Skubal, Shane Smith, Brian Wu, and Joe Ryan, all making it for the American League. A couple relievers as well. You got Aroldis Chapman, Josh Hader, and Andres Munoz. All those dudes are very good, very deserving. And then on to the National League. Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Ketel Marte, Manny Machado, Francisco Lindor, Ronald Acuna Jr. Then new kid come out of nowhere, Pete Crow Armstrong, having a massive year. Already at 25 home runs, 25 steals. Kyle Tucker, Shohei Ohtani. This list of hitters is kind of like a who's who of the NL. This seems like it's very familiar.
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, the guys that are on there are all who's names, recognizable guys that you would expect to be at least in contention for the All-Star game. So nothing that really like stands out to me as like, they're not really deserving.
Yeah. All right, we're going to wrap it up real quick here. The reserves, Hunter Goodman, Pete Alonso, Ellie De La Cruz, Brandon Donovan, Matt Olson, Eugenio Suarez, Corbin Carroll, Kyle Stowers, Fernando Tatis Jr., James Wood, and Kyle Schwarber, all deserving. Now I'm going to get into the pitchers because there's one name that we're going to have to talk about. Matthew Boyd, Mackenzie Gore, Freddie Peralta, Robbie Ray, Chris Sale, Paul Skeens, Logan Webb, Zach Wheeler, Yamamoto, Andrew Abbott, David Peterson, and the name that we wanted to talk about, Clayton Kershaw, coming in as the legend pick. So we've seen that legend pick come up a few times in the last couple of years. We've seen it with Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera. How do you feel about this legend pick? I know that we have talked about this a couple times before when these happened. For me, my stance has kind of gone a little bit both ways. It's cool to give these guys a farewell tour. That's awesome. I can absolutely appreciate that. But it's harder to do this with a pitcher. Like the hitters, those guys can go be a participant in a home run derby, right? Legend pick in a home run derby. Go see him swing. That's exactly what Albert Pujols did. I think Cabrera just kind of showed up. I was like, hey, I'm here. Is Kershaw going to pitch at all in this thing? Because it feels like Kershaw should just be there to say, hi, appreciate you guys. This is my farewell tour because he has, it's a Hall of Fame career, no doubt.
Like, I think I'm kind of in between it as well. It is definitely different with the pitcher. Is Kershaw even really that relevant anymore?
No, dude. I went and looked. He's got like a 0.8 WAR right now, 3-1 on the season. His ERA is mid-3s. Like he's hanging on. He's still a bottom of the rotation pitcher, but he's not Clayton Kershaw. He's not an all-star.
So to me, one of the things that's kind of an issue with the All-Star game is that it doesn't really have any implications anymore. Before it used to decide home field advantage when it came to the World Series. We don't really have that anymore. So it is just a mid-season break with a fan experience. And so with that being said, like, I kind of understand you get all the big stars out there. You can do these sorts of things. Just like the NFL, the Pro Bowl and everything, and the Pro Bowl games, they're just kind of just like a bullshit fan experience where you get to see all the best of the best out there. Now, Kershaw's not one of the best of the best, but they're just kind of trying to add to that fan experience, provide a little bit of a nostalgic feel of having one of the former greats of the game kind of get their, like you said, farewell tour. I get that, but it does denigrate the game to an extent if you're expecting to see a certain caliber of baseball. And I would have to assume that the team's only going to use him sparingly if they actually have any sort of intention of winning, which when it comes down to All-Star game,
doesn't matter.
I don't know how much these pros really care about the bragging rights of winning the All-Star game. I think that the home run derby is more of an accolade that they want to shoot for.
100%.
And so while it doesn't really bother me them being there, it also does kind of denigrate the actual All-Star game itself. Now, if they start having some sort of a actual implication from the game again, such as that home field advantage, which I think is about the only thing that you can do to make the game worthwhile, it's just going to kind of make it more of just a show and not really a game.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean,
how long before we start having St. Jude's kids out there?
I don't know.
That'd be pretty cool.
Would it?
Watch little Timmy, who's got fucking bone cancer, get fucking beamed in the head.
That was real dark.
Real the plate.
Shouldn't have been standing there.
Yeah. Life lessons for the shortened life, unfortunately. Look, we keep it raw. We have a little bit of fun here. I love St. Jude's, and I hate fucking childhood cancer. But we can joke about it. We can joke.
I agree. All right, relief pitchers, now that they have to follow childhood cancer, Jason Adam, Edwin Diaz, Randy Rodriguez, Robert Suarez, and Trevor McGill. The home run derby as well is kind of a cool field. Ronald Acuna Jr., who's coming back from injury. He hits the ball real fucking hard and real far. Joining him will be Cal Raleigh, who has 36 home runs already on the season. James Wood, young player for the Nationals, coming up. Byron Buxton, your boy. O'Neal Cruz, who I didn't know that this was his fucking stat, because the list I'm reading has all the hardest hit balls for these guys. O'Neal Cruz hit a ball 122.9 miles an hour.
Yeah, he dinged it a little bit.
Yeah. The next highest on this list was like 116. So that's the most ridiculous exit velocity I've ever seen. Anyways, Junior Caminero of the Rays is going to be there as well. Brent Rooker and Jazz Chisholm, who will almost certainly be swinging a torpedo bat.
Yeah, look, we actually probably need to do a little bit more research update on that torpedo bat situation. How is that working out for them Yankees? But look, yeah, like that, the home run derby is what I gravitate towards when it comes to this All-Star game. Of course, I'm going to root for my guy Byron Buxton, but it's tough for me to say this, but I feel like he's just kind of like high potential, but now middling type of player. He's having a good year, 20 home runs and everything, but this is his chance to kind of do something fun for the Twins. But that's what we come to watch, because realistically, you do have guys who are obviously leading the league in home runs. What's his nuts? The catcher?
Cal Raleigh.
Yeah, Cal Raleigh. Like, he's having a phenomenal year. But when it comes to the home run derby, it is anybody's game there. So that's actually like it feels like a very level playing field. Not like the steroid era where you just constantly saw McGuire and Sosa and that stuff, going on in Bonds, and that was awesome. But it truly feels like an open competition. It's a lot of fun to watch.
I want to see Ronald Acuna take on fucking O'Neal Cruz, because those dudes hit the ball so goddamn hard. O'Neal Cruz, it's going to sound like a shotgun goes off when O'Neal Cruz hits the damn ball. It's so, dude, there's no way it doesn't sound like that with that kind of exit velocity. Whew. I mean, when Shohei smoked that ball over the fence in Cleveland, that's what it sounds like, dude. It's like a shotgun going off.
We also need to try to do like a different type of home run derby with guys who aren't like home run guys, maybe just like high batting average or something like that. You know, like your second baseman who's just good for dinking out singles or something like that, but doesn't ever fucking like, well, maybe have 1 or 2 pokes in a season, but then put those guys out there and just let them kind of like free swing and see if any of them actually have like some legit power to them. That'd be a little fun too.
That would be fun. That would be, I mean, I feel like guys like Ichiro back in the day probably would have had a great time doing something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. One last thing in baseball before we transition out of it. The automatic ball and strike. I don't know what the fuck ABS stands for, but other than automatic braking system, but automatic balls and strikes is what I'm going to call it for now until I actually look up what the fuck it stands for. But robo-umps are coming to the All-Star Game. Essentially the same concept that happened during spring training, where there will be an umpire calling the game. Player doesn't like it. Rather than drawing a line in the batter's box where that bitch missed outside, he can just say, hey, go ahead and check that for me. And ABS will say, this guy's dumb, or no, he got it right. So I think it's awesome.
You're pretty fucking close with it. It's automated ball-strike system.
Damn it.
They got you with the ball-strike.
Ball-strike. I mean, fucking, that was close, though. That's pretty good.
It'd be a phenomenal fucking player name, by the way. Ball-strike.
Damn, dude. Ball-strike that's a legit baller name right there.
I'm making him on the game tonight. I'm going to make him on college football. First name Ball, last name -strike. Perfect.
What is he? That's a linebacker, though, right? That's
well, I mean, if I'm taking him the whole, the whole way through high school and then college, I wish you could do kicker, but it's not available. So I don't know. Could -strike be a running back? Probably not. Maybe middle linebacker with one of those shirts rolled up so you can see that six-pack.
You want the neck roll sticking out of that bad boy?
Nasty.
I don't think I'm pretty sure that there was a whole community of people online that were very upset with the lack of equipment that you can put on your player. I have not gone into that yet.
But you can put on a hoodie underneath your pads. So that's fun.
That's sick, I guess.
Yeah. Very nice. All right. Ball-strike. New player coming to college football on my team. But as far as that automatic ball strike system, it's another thing that it's to me kind of gimmicky in this. Obviously, they kind of tested this sort of stuff earlier in the year, spring ball and everything. I think that it's probably a worthwhile thing if they're able to keep the speed up. Obviously we move to a pitch count. If they're able to keep the speed up in the regular game and utilize that to make it more quality, then I'm all about it. I wonder if, and this is probably like a hockey fan in me coming out, I do like seeing a good fucking argument between a player and an ump, or a coach and an ump, and the bad lip reading and shit like that. It's fantastic, and you might see a little bit less of that if a computer comes in. Now it would be cool if then the player gets to be like, hey ump, you're a fucking idiot. The robot says you're a fucking idiot.
The robot says you're an idiot.
How do you fucking feel now, stupid bitch? Or something like that. Like maybe that shit still happens, but there's a possibility that we could see less conflict, and that conflict is one of the funner parts of a baseball game, in my opinion.
I absolutely agree. Producer Amber is legit, by the way. She's probably another drink.
Nice, very nice.
Can I have that pineapple though?
With the pineapple wedge on it.
Yeah, I want the pineapple, dude.
Trying to sweeten your ass up.
Man, good day. I think it's going to be cool, man. I would like to see this implemented more. I think it's a system that can be used. They showed it in, spring training. It's happening down in the minors. I think it's a good system. Sometimes these umpires get it wrong. And now if it becomes something where you can do it on every pitch, no, I don't like that. But on action pitches where things are going to happen and you can go ahead and tap your head, take a quick look at a fucking computer screen and be like, all right, no, he got it right or he got it wrong. Boom. It shouldn't take longer than the goddamn pitch clock should.
You would think that with today's automation and capabilities the ump's already wearing a helmet. You can just have a fucking Google Glass type eyepiece in there that immediately red light.
Give him a fucking earpiece and another dude, a guy on the crew who can just be like, no, ABS says you're wrong. it's a ball, or no, ABS says you're right, it's a strike, whatever.
But you would think that they would be able to have a system that is so quick that the system can say ball or strike, and it just puts up a red light or a green light in their helmet. So they're able to make an immediate call, not even have to wait on another human to relay it. Just something super simple, light-wise inside the helmet or a visor essentially that is able to give them that. And then you have accuracy of the call, but that ump is still able to regulate and rule over everything else that happens within the game that isn't being taken over by that, automatic ball-strike system.
Yeah. What they should do is tape a buzzer to the chest of people, so that way they can just tell what's going to happen, like what pitch, or if there's somebody bangs real hard on something, then they'll be able to figure out if it was a ball or a strike.
Better yet, let's just put a fucking taser inside of every jersey, and you do something wrong, including the ump, make a wrong call.
Boom, there you go.
It's the old Pavlovian theory type thing or whatever, get punished and you learn real quick to start.
It's the Milgram study. I am taking a class right now on persuasion. So,
all right. Well, feel free to take my idea into your class.
Absolutely. All right, man, let's get out of baseball because we spent a lot of time talking baseball today. Let's talk about some football. We're going to talk about former Viking, your boy, Kirk Cousins, making waves down in Atlanta. Still, for some reason, the new season of Quarterback is out on Netflix. Have not watched it yet.
I watched the whole thing, finished it last night.
Did you? How was it?
It's good. It's good. Truthfully, I have to say, I was most focused on Kirk Cousins because he was the most drama-filled quarterback on that, because obviously last year Kirk Cousins ended up getting benched. You also had the issue with the injury, not injury, that was reported or not reported, and how they tried to navigate that in the season. It was interesting, but overall, good season. You get to see two really top tier quarterbacks in Jared Goff, and it, as much as I dislike the Lions because they're part of the NFC North, and we've said this before. Like I've been happy for them to see them start to have success, because as a franchise that is much maligned in my Vikings, where we've made it to the big game 4 times, never won it, and it seems like we're always just edging ourselves close and close and can never make it over the hump. The Lions are even in a worse situation than that, where they have had some incredibly good players and things like that over the years, and they just have never been able to be a good team until like the past couple of years. So it's cool kind of see them have their comeuppance. As far as I'm concerned, that's over now, though, because, hey, you are no longer the laughing stock of the league. You're a good team. I don't feel good for you anymore. Now you just have to fucking own it and be that sort of team. But either way, it's cool to watch Goff and his methodology of how he approaches things, and see how good that team is. You can see more Dan Campbell. MCDC is always fun to fucking watch. And you get, the unedited F-bombs from him and stuff like that, which is fucking great. And then you get to see Joe Burrow, who is, putting up just an incredible season and constantly still losing, and his team being so bad around him. And it might be difficult for you because I know you don't like the Bengals. And I don't know if that means that you dislike Joe Burrow.
I don't dislike Joe Burrow.
After watching the show, see, I respected Joe Burrow. After watching the show, I actually genuinely like him. He's a fucking chill dude. He's a pretty cool dude. Like, I like making fun of him for his little fucking outfits, which they go into in the show as well.
Mm-hmm.
But like, he is such a chill dude. He does things the right way, as far as like not throwing teammates under the bus or anything like that. Like,
he's a dude.
He's a quiet leader and stuff like that. So it's really fun to watch that. But of course, like, Kirk Cousins is kind of what I feel like this season really revolved around in the season 2 of quarterback, because of everything that happened between the injury, leaving the Vikings, and how things turned out there in Atlanta.
Apparently, he came out and said, and I did not see it yet, I just saw the clip of it, that he felt like he was misled by the Falcons, and that he would have considered other things if he had known that was the plan. So this is not a relationship that is in a good spot right now. And I think the fact that that's coming out now, if it wasn't already known, might start to make the wheels move a little bit. You got camp getting ready to start here pretty soon. A lot of things are going to get going in motion. I cannot foresee a future where we're going to see Kirk Cousins on this fucking Falcons team at the start of the year.
Yeah, look, I don't want to spoil it too much for everyone who's watching, but the cliff notes of it is, and you can get most of this in episode 1. Kirk and Julie Cousins are talking, and I probably have a much different perspective of this because I enjoyed having Kirk on the team for so long, but also I was ready to move on from him for so long because he could only take you so far, and he was extremely expensive. And I knew how behind the scenes greedy and money driven he was, which I can blame him as a Vikings fan, but I can't blame him as a guy who wants the players to make their money and make that impact for their family. But you can definitely tell that they do a very quick time lapse, like not even to the point like you wouldn't know it's a time lapse unless you actually had been following the whole Cousins story of him and Julie talking about like, oh yeah, like, we talked to the Vikings and they offered us something, but they weren't willing to go long term. They were wanted to go year to year, and we wanted something that would be long term. And so that's, we had a team that wanted to take care of us like that. And there was even comments, I believe, from like Julie Cousins of like, it feels kind of bad, kind of weird that, you invest so much of your time and everything in this community and this team, and that they just kind of are willing to push you off to the side.
Yeah.
But then it immediately goes into Kirk saying, I do feel like I was kind of misled because the Vikings, while we're very upfront with me, we're willing to give you this contract. It's going to be a year-to-year thing. We also are going to go into the draft and go after a quarterback, and you have to be willing to be able to accept that. And it was one of the things that he did not want to accept. And the Falcons, on the other hand, were offering him a lot of money and a multi-year deal, but did not tell him that they had plans to look towards their future. And that misleading part is when he started to say, I had no reason to leave Minnesota. I loved it in Minnesota. And if I had known things differently, I might not have left, or it might have changed my decisions. Yeah. So sounds like he's upset at the Falcons for drafting Penix, which we generally knew, and that he probably would have erred towards staying with the Vikings on those shorter term deals, probably still earning more than he's worth to essentially become a backup. And it's just interesting kind of seeing his demeanor because he is such a fucking nice guy, at least on the face of it. But then he does talk in the show about different things, like how he read Drew Brees' book. And in the book, Drew Brees apparently said something along the lines of, never let your backup see the field. Like, do everything to make sure that your backup never sees the field. And that's always been a thing with Kirk and the Vikings when he was with the Vikings, is that if they ever brought anyone in as competition, he would get upset, and that player would then no longer be on the team. He liked having Sean Mannion there as his backup because the guy was a clipboard holder and never was going to push him for his job. No competition. And so that sort of mindset, you kind of see where he starts to get that from, which apparently was Drew Brees in that book. And that's something that he's carried with him through his career. Also watching him just struggle to pick up that Atlanta playbook. Like he's talking about, he's like, yeah, you start seeing Mike McDaniel's offense. They're doing all sorts of motions and you're seeing how it's effective. And then I go to the Falcons and all of a sudden there's a shitload of motions and now I'm getting confused and stuff like that. You see episodes with him, stacks and stacks and stacks of notebooks that he's taking down notes for his, entire time in the NFL. And he's having to go back to it to figure out what the fuck is going on with this team that he's about to play and making mistakes and stuff in practice and in the games. It's especially interesting having him mic'd up during the games, because as soon as he throws a bad pass, he's like, no, oh, no, yeah, and then frick, and those normal Kirk Cousinisms and stuff like that. It has not reshaped how I view Kirk Cousins, but it has emphasized what I believed Kirk Cousins to be, as far as a guy behind the scenes with football and his desires for money, starting position, all of that, which feels a little bit disingenuous with how he, kind of puts himself front facing, but that's how every player probably is and should be. It's a very interesting watch. And especially that last episode where he's talking about his future and everything, like you kind of were leading into, it does definitely set up the situation where the Falcons are paying him a lot of money to sit on the bench. And he constantly says, I want to keep playing this game until my sons are old enough to fully understand what daddy does. And they're not there yet, apparently. He still thinks that he needs more years of playing and starting. And so he still wants to go out there and play and start. It's just going to be, where is that going to be? And I think the Falcons are holding on to him right now in the hopes that a team finds out their quarterback isn't going to cut it or gets hurt, and that they're able to trade him and get something in return while still having to pay that hefty sum of money, the $100 million guaranteed and 180 over 4 years. Yeah, it's a really interesting watch. It's interesting watching the family dynamic. The kids, they talk about the kids. Like they knew that they probably weren't staying in Minnesota. They packed their house up at the end of the season and then moved to Atlanta already, their Atlanta house, because Julie has family there. And they never went back to get their stuff. They just had movers go and pick their stuff up. And so the kids were like, when are we going to go see our Minnesota neighbors? When are we going back to our Minnesota house? They didn't explain to them like, oh, like you don't live there anymore. And so when they went back for the Minnesota game, like the kids were like very confused and upset and stuff like that.
I'm sure.
Yeah. It was a really interesting dynamic, especially when it's benched and the kids are like, you got fired from your job. You don't play football anymore. That sort of stuff. Like, yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. Tough situation, but definitely recommend the watch. It is very interesting to see the behind the scenes of the Kirk Cousins stuff. And then it is interesting watching the process that Jared Goff and Joe Burrow both have.
Now, I do intend to watch it. I love quarterback. I love the first season, so I will watch this one for sure. I just found it interesting. The comments that came out kind of started making waves because, I mean, when you think about it, he would have had no problem staying in Minnesota. And when you think about the way the year works, Kirk Cousins is there last year doing all those things instead of, goddamn it,
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, Sam Darnold, who makes himself a lot of money, but I mean, I think you'd rather have Kirk Cousins in that situation.
Oh, dude, at the beginning of last year, if you had asked me that question, I probably would have said yes. But hindsight's 2020. It feels like we batted 1,000 on that situation because this is something that's been talked about a lot in like Minnesota Vikings podcasts and stuff like that since quarterback has come out in the past couple of days. If we had re-signed him, we probably don't have the cap space. Even if it's those short-term deals, we probably don't have the cap space to make the moves that we did last year and this offseason. We aren't getting a third-round comp pick for how Sam Darnold performed. With how Kirk Cousins performed last year, and maybe that Achilles not being completely healed, I don't know that he has as good of a season as Sam Darnold did because Sam Darnold was mobile. Sam Darnold had a fucking really good arm. Kirk Cousins has a good arm, but not like Sam Darnold type of power. Sam Darnold was a little bit of a wild man with that shit, which has been, both a boon and a bane to him. Kirk Cousins doesn't have that in him. So I feel like we might not have had as good of a season as we did if Kirk Cousins was there. Not just play from him on the field, but the ability to make the offseason moves that we did both last season and this offseason, in addition to getting a future third-round compensatory pick for Sam Darnold next year. If Kirk had stayed, I'm taking a couple wins off the board for the Vikings.
All right. I mean, listen, I was never a big Darnold guy. Now, obviously, Kirk didn't show anything last year that would make you think that it was a good idea to re-sign him. So maybe you're right. Maybe everything worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. But
all part of the KOC Kwesi master plan.
There you go.
Beautiful.
Talking about execs like Kwesi, there's some execs, scouts, and others, coaches, who were polled about who the top 10 edge rushers in the NFL were. And to not my surprise at all, Myles Garrett was selected number 1. Coming in second, TJ Watt. Third, Micah Parsons. Fourth, Max Crosby. Fifth, this one is a little surprising to me. Nick Bosa. Sixth, Trey Hendrickson. Seventh, Aiden Hutchinson. Eighth, Will Anderson Jr. Ninth, Danielle Hunter. 10th, Jared Verse. Coming up very high on that list already. So I'm going to go ahead and get my piece out of the way right now. Myles Garrett is very clearly the best edge in the NFL. All the Steelers fans who are complaining and bitching, stop. All you are saying is that you don't understand the difference in what they do, the position that they play, the amount of attention that is paid to Myles Garrett at the position that he plays, rather than the things that can be done to TJ at his 9 technique. Now, what I do think has got a little bit crazy is that the lowest ranking that Myles Garrett had on this was 4th. And I don't know what exec, coach, or scout has Myles Garrett as the 4th best edge rusher, but that guy should be fucking fired. And whoever that guy is almost certainly has TJ Watt as the number 1 edge rusher.
Yeah, there's, if they asked a exec or whoever from Pittsburgh or something like that, then that obviously could shape the situation. Also, not knowing the complete background, is this just purely on the field play or holistically the player? Because if we're going to knock Myles Garrett for anything, it's the fact that he can be a cap constraint based on that new contract on the team. And that doesn't allow you to potentially fill out the roster completely. Like if you weigh a player's value between on-field play and their contract that they're getting, that changes the landscape a little bit. I would have assumed that this is just pure on-the-field play. And in that case, I do think, Myles Garrett is probably the top guy. I was actually surprised Aiden Hutchinson was as low as he was, because he looked like by far and away the best defensive player in the NFL last year prior to the injury. Like he was on an insane pace. The injury has to factor into that to some extent as well. But if you're just going based off of what he was doing last year, I would have assumed that he would have been closer to top 3 rather than 6th.
Yeah, I agree. So Micah Parsons at 3, I can get behind that. I understand that. Aiden Hutchinson being right or in that range, because he looked incredible. Now, coming off the injury, you don't know how he's going to perform. If he can come back and be really good again, then he's climbing way, way up this list. Trey Hendrickson being down behind Nick Bosa was interesting to me.
Yeah, Bosa, as high as he was, is probably the biggest surprise.
Had his highest ranking was 3rd, lowest ranking was unranked. Same thing with Hendrickson, highest ranking of 3rd, lowest ranking unranked. But that's of a lot of these guys, like Aiden Hutchinson, ranked 3rd, lowest unranked. I don't know how some of these guys would be unranked on a list. Like Max Crosby, highest number 1, lowest number 6. Micah Parsons, highest number 1, lowest number 6. TJ Watt, highest number 1, lowest number 3. Myles Garrett, highest number 1, lowest number 4.
Yeah, that it feels like there has to be. These are execs. There has to be some sort of bias, like implicit bias based off of their team, injected in here with some of those guys. Because Hendrickson, you can't argue with the sack production.
The numbers
he has to be a top 10 guy. You can't have him unranked because of that sack production. Now, you could, be upset because you have to play against him, and that's why you would rank him unranked or wouldn't consider him.
Or he's a pain in the ass because he wants to get paid.
Or you have to take into the contract situation. That's the only other thing. And that's the thing is, like, is this purely on the field play, or is this also contract involved? That would be my only question mark with it.
Yeah. So it says that it's not really supposed to be that. Let's see here. So, ranking process. Voters gave us 10 best players at a position. Then we compile the results and rank candidates based on a number of top 10 votes. Composite average in dozens of interviews with research and film study from ESPN analyst Matt Bowen. In total, more than 70 voters submitted a ballot on at least one position, and in many cases, all positions. So
So they're going to be is the fully compiled list out there, or are they just dropping position by position?
Position by position. So this was, let's see which one. The 6th edition of the rankings. I'm not sure. Oh, running backs are out, defensive tackles are out, edge rushers are out. Safeties came out today, and they're going to continue to release these all the way through July 17th. So thank you, ESPN, because you've given us some things to talk about and who got it right, who got it wrong. But edge rusher, this is a very controversial one, and I'm very close to it being a Browns fan. It's Myles Garrett. It's Myles Garrett. It's Myles Garrett. TJ Watt is a very good player. His production dipped last year. He's getting older. Like, you can project a lot of things. Myles Garrett is a better player. I'm glad that TJ does more things. TJ is also a fucking linebacker.
Yeah, they probably look just like the new Madden that's going to be coming out this year. They probably need to start breaking down these sorts of things even further by position, because edge is no longer just edge. You have down linemen, you have linebackers, things like that. Jonathan Gennard and Andrew Van Ginkel for my team are both considered edge rushers, but they aren't the same as a Myles Garrett. They play a different position. They aren't hand in the dirt type of guys. Yeah. They don't have the same sort of versatility. They are 3-4 outside linebackers who are edge rushers, somewhat more prone to being coverage or rushing. It just depends on that type of player. So you kind of have to almost break it down a little bit differently. Like TJ Watt and Myles Garrett both are considered edge rushers, but they are
playing the same
positions.
Yeah. But Myles is still better. Suck at Pittsburgh. Anyways, so listen, that's all I got on the edge rushers. Any other thing you want to bring up with the edge rushers?
No, I'm good there.
All right,
I'm interested to see what the rest of the voting is for the different positions, though.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and take a look. Quarterback and running back will be a hot ticket, I think, as well as wide receiver.
Yeah.
But all right, man. So we got a couple of smaller storylines. We got some Adrien Peterson news, Najee Harris and Tristan Wirfs. Go ahead and hit us with what we got.
Yeah, so an update there on Adrien Peterson. You know, we talked about him recently in some of his struggles off the field. Pretty much everything is off the field now, even though he's not retired. He had that little scuffle with a alleged friend over a poker match. Well, he has signed a boxing contract to have a fight with said friend that he got in that actual little fisticuffs with. So Adrien Peterson trying to find a way to monetize his struggles, if you will, or his little scuffle. So I don't know if that necessarily fits in with the stuff that we were recommending, you know, of staying out of the limelight, go with Grayson to the end of your career, especially since Adrien Peterson has had a maligned boxing career where he kind of got his ass whooped by Le'Veon Bell. Hopefully he's actually able to train a little bit better or something like that, though it doesn't sound like he's going up against another professional athlete at this point. But things looked a little bit more evenly matched during that poker brawl. So I don't know. We'll see how this works out. But, you know, I guess good for you, AP. Go and make a little bit extra money and keep yourself out of bankruptcy. We also had reports about 2 injuries. Tristan Wirfs has an injury that is probably going to be relegating him to the PUP to start the season. That Buccaneers offensive line already wasn't fantastic, but he was obviously the heart and soul, the best player on that offensive line. And Wirfs has had injury issues for a while now, so this is just another kind of sign that he's maybe becoming a little bit more unreliable as far as health is concerned. When he is on the field, one of the best tackles out there, but it's a big loss for the Bucs, especially to start the year. They did move on from Justin School, on my Vikings now, who actually was a very highly regarded backup swing tackle and was playing a lot for Wirfs last year. I'm not sure who they have backing up the position now, so a question mark definitely for the Bucs to start off the year there. And then you had news come out today about Najee Harris, new running back for the Chargers, sustained an eye injury on the 4th of July from a firework. This is close to the JPP situation again, except for it sounds like the injury is not going to be terrible. They're expecting him to be ready to start at the regular season. So a couple things to monitor and track, especially as we're starting to get into fantasy football time of year. Drafts are going to be happening here over the next month or so, I'm sure. So something to keep an eye on, see what his status is. He already was going to have a good competition there in LA. So this might knock him down a peg or a draft spot or two.
Speaking of fantasy football, did you hear that the NFL and the NFLPA were colluding?
All the time.
Apparently, some players were, well, I'm going to need to do some more research. This is a story we're going to definitely want to take a look into at some point. The NFL and the NFLPA apparently colluded to keep down guaranteed player contract money, and then also signed a confidentiality agreement between the two to not disclose that information to the players.
Yeah, I had actually read something about this earlier, and I'm pretty sure that I have posted about it on the Raw Dawg Sports Facebook page. Some of the comments that we're seeing through text messages and stuff like that were a little disheartening. It had to do a lot with Russell Wilson, I think, and the fact that he, had that fully guaranteed contract, and then other players not going after the fully guaranteed contract as well.
Yeah, I don't know who got what, but apparently there was some collusion, and now there is additional lawsuits being filed by the NFLPA, even though the NFLPA did a bad job of doing their job to begin with. What almost certainly is going to happen is that the union and the organization are going to fuck the players in some capacity, and we'll never know that the NFL was for sure colluding to drive down guaranteed money after Deshaun Watson was guaranteed $230 million.
Yeah. And I believe Florio is one of the reporters who's kind of breaking this stuff. I'm trying to find the exact stuff, but one of the text messages I believe was a guy from the NFLPA calling a player a pussy for not going after the fully guaranteed contract or something. It's interesting. We'll have to do more research to get to you on that, but something definitely to keep an eye on, because there was this collusion case, and the NFLPA is going to appeal the ruling on the collusion case, apparently. So something to watch going forward.
There's a lot of backhanded shit going on with that, but such is life. It's the NFL, and there's a lot of money involved. Oh, yeah. So let's talk about some actual football. Let's break down the AFC and NFC North divisions, because football season is fast approaching. We have football at some point this month, and it will be played in the great state of Ohio.
We're doing the South, right? Not the
That's
North.
What I said, right? Did I say the North?
I thought you said the North. I don't know. We are doing the South.
South. We are doing the South.
Saving the best for last.
That's right, baby. All right, man. So let me pull up my stuff here. But do you want to start AFC or NFC South first?
Let's just go with the NFC. I think that we might be relatively similar on this one, at least as far as the standings are concerned. Maybe not with the records. For those of you who haven't watched, we've already taken care of the East divisions and the West divisions. Mike is very bullish, and there's not a lot of middle teams. Not a lot of middle. You got a lot of guys at the bottom end and a lot at the top end.
I did the same thing last year, and it actually worked out pretty well.
Yeah, last year was a year where we had a lot of teams like way outperform expectations, and a lot of teams do real shitty.
Yeah, so I kind of landed on the same model this year, because I think there's still a lot of shitty teams in the NFL.
Yeah, and I'm hoping for some parity. We still got bad teams, but so NFC South, fourth place team. Who do you got?
I have the Saints finishing in fourth place. I think they're going to be pretty terrible, but they're going to win some games because they're playing in a terrible division. I got them finishing at 4-13, 2-4 inside their division. They'll split with the Panthers and they'll split with the Falcons. I just don't see this working out. This is a placeholder coach. I don't like the rookie quarterback they got bringing in there, and there's going to be a ton of pressure for him to compete and go and try to win a starting job. A guy that I didn't even have pegged as a second, third round pick. He was way down in the fourth, fifth round for me.
I'm happy to hear that you're pegging guys.
Wouldn't I just use my dick for that? Wouldn't I just be fucking dudes?
That's pegging.
Okay, never mind. Anyways, but I think they're going to be terrible, man. Shuck is not going to get it done. 4-13.
All right. Well, I also have the Saints in fourth place in the NFC South. I have them even worse. I have them 3-14. Their only wins in the year is at Seattle, against New England at home, and Atlanta at home. 3-14, terrible year. Look, Shuck, you can say what you want about him. I think that at best he is just that kind of journeyman backup style quarterback who's already going to kind of age himself out of long-term contracts or anything like that. Maybe he's able to do something, but I think that the coaching situation there with Kellen Moore, the bad roster, no real answer at quarterback between Rattler and Shuck, an aging team as far as some of your role players like Alvin Kamara. It's a recipe for disaster there. They're going to try to work themselves out of that cap situation, and we'll see what goes forward with Derek Carr in the future, but probably not going to affect this year. Yeah, there's going to be a pretty rough team. The whole beginning of the year last year with Clint Kubiak making some crazy things happen on offense. I think that's people were not expecting them to have as much fight. But again, new coaching staff here, an aging team with not a whole lot of bright spots. I do like how they've started to attempt to rebuild that offensive line, which is a good foundational thing to try to put together an offense and help a young quarterback, whether it's Rattler or Shuck. But it's not going to be enough because, again, you don't have the role players that are going to be able to uplift this team at this point.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, man. All right, moving on to team number 3. Who you got, brother?
I have tied, but in third place in this spot, Carolina Panthers.
Oh, okay.
7-10. They get 3 divisional wins, and spoiler alert, Falcons are my number 2 team, also at 7-10, also with 3 divisional wins. However, the Falcons are able to edge out the Panthers and get that second spot with a head-to-head win. Panthers 7-10. Look, the book is not written on Bryce Young. We saw some good things last year. I like some of the things that they did in the draft. But this is still a team that has aging guys and Adam Thielen and stuff like that, guys who are unproven but showed a little bit of promise in Bryce Young. But this is the make or break year. Find out whether or not Bryce Young is your guy or whether or not you are going to have another bad season and be picking at the top of the draft trying to find your new quarterback. I think that the Panthers got some fight in them. I think that they can lean on what they did last year and get more wins than they did, but they're still going to end up with a losing record, 7-10. A decent little bit of fight out of them, but still not a super competitive team.
All right. So my third team, I have the Falcons at 5-12, 2-4 in the division. I just don't think that they haven't figured out a quarterback. The fact that Kirk Cousins is still there is interesting. They could have easily moved him. Are they not certain in Penix? Or I don't know what they're waiting for. So it feels like the fact that they haven't made a decision means they're not sure what to do either. They don't know what's going on yet. And that doesn't bode well for a team that needs to find a way to utilize some of these really explosive young weapons that they have. And they just have not unlocked that closet yet. So I got them 5-12, 2-4 in the division.
Yeah, so Falcons are my second place team. And I'll just kind of lead off with that. That Penix, I do like. I think that he's going to do some good things this year. We saw some good stuff from him at the end of the season last year. However, he didn't get that full rookie year of starting time, those actual game reps to really build off of like all the other rookie quarterbacks. So I'm not necessarily seeing a second-year slump, but it's definitely a second-year building year. Now, they do have a lot of good offensive weapons. Drake London, Bijan Robinson, some of that stuff to work with. Kyle Pitts, maybe they're able to figure something out with him and use him a little more as a receiver. Who knows? The offensive line is good, not as good as it has been in years past. They lost guys like Drew Dahlman, starting center. But I think that the offense has some teeth to it for sure. The question mark for me still revolves around the defense and the complete and utter lack of a pass rush. They went out there, they made some moves to get guys to be pass rushers this year in the draft, but it's a super high expectation to expect those guys to come in, being that they didn't really do anything in free agency, expect those pass rushers to come in and make an impact from day one. You might see some development and some stuff from them by the end of the year, but I'm not expecting to see anything super early on. And that is going to hold them back from really competing for this division. As far as Kirk Cousins goes, my assumption again is that they are trying to pull a Philadelphia Eagles with Carson Wentz and Sam Bradford. They kept Sam Bradford on the Eagles despite having Carson Wentz there as the actual starter. And Sam Bradford was making a decent amount of money to be a backup. And then Vikings have Teddy Bridgewater go down, snap his leg in half, and they paid a first-round pick to go out there and get Sam Bradford. If a desperate team is out there, they lose their starting quarterback, but they've got a competent roster, they could pay a lot more as far as draft compensation to go out there and get a Kirk Cousins who could step in pretty much immediately and start for you and have more upside than someone who is your more traditional backup quarterback. Because there's not too many teams out there that I think would have someone who would really fit that mold like Kirk Cousins does to come in and immediately step in as a starter. So they can kind of hold a king's ransom for him against a team. Whereas earlier in free agency, you did have multiple teams that were looking for quarterbacks, but no one is like, I really want Kirk Cousins, especially after the performance that we saw last year. Then you have the contract involved with, how much you are going to be having to pay him potentially or take on some of the cap from the Falcons. And the Falcons, are obviously going to want to get something decent in return, like a second round pick or something like that for him at that point. So I think that it was just cost prohibitive for them to move him in the offseason. But when you get a desperate team that needs a quarterback now, that's when you can kind of hold them over or bend them over and take picks from them. And the Falcons, they just traded their first round pick next year in order to move back into the first round and get another edge rusher. So they need to try to move him for something to recoup some of that draft capital. I think that's their plan moving forward. The problem is that Kirk Cousins is not probably the greatest mentor to have in the locker room. He is in certain aspects, but he wants to be a starter. So he's probably not doing everything in his capability to make sure that Penix is the guy. He's already avoided offseason activities. And the comments in the quarterback show kind of lead you to believe that he sees his future starting somewhere. And he definitely alludes to that. So I think that's the Falcons' plan, is that they mutually want to come to an agreement, because he does have a no trade clause, to move him to a team that ends up needing a quarterback desperately.
All right.
By the way, that won't help them this year, though.
No.
That's why they're another 7-10 team.
All right, man. And then my second team, I have the Panthers coming in at 6-11, at 3-3 in the division. I think they're going to be improved. I agree that the book's not written on Bryce Young. He started to make some strides. There were moments last year where I was like, okay, maybe this kid can figure it out. Maybe he can play a little bit. Their defense still is not great. They're going to have to continue to improve their offensive line as well. I still do not love their offensive line. There's some talent. There's just not enough talent to really make a big push. But this is a weak ass division. So they can maybe get an extra game or two. You said you had them 7-10, right?
Yes.
I can see them maybe getting up to 8 is their max, in my opinion. If things go really, really right. They're still a few years away talent-wise and having enough to compete, as long as Bryce continues to still make those steps forward.
Yeah, that's the highlight of that team is going to be the offense, which is really weird to say for an offense led by Bryce Young.
Considering that how inept they looked at times.
Yeah, we've been so predispositioned to thinking that Bryce Young is just not good, because he hasn't been good except for those small spurts last year. And even then, it was not that he was necessarily good. It's just that he was way closer to an average NFL quarterback than he ever had been previously in his career. But they're trying to set him up for success. I mean, they brought back Chuba Hubbard. Obviously, Jonathan Brooks, that situation didn't work out. But they go out there and get Trevor Etienne to kind of try to round out that backfield. I know you don't like their offensive line, but they had made some huge financial moves in order to bring in guys who are at least league average or above average. So they've done some upgrades there, and then they go out with their first pick and get Ted McMillan to pair along with their other wide receivers. So they've got options there on offense, whereas the defense, you are taking some chances on guys like Nick Scorton and Princely Umamielen in the draft this year. Same sort of thing with the Falcons. I can't expect those guys to make immediate impacts, but they are upgrades kind of from what they previously had. It just feels like a ship without a captain there on defense. Who knows what their identity is really going to be, because that defense was absolutely terrible last year. So it's kind of like the Patriots situation. You can just, any sort of addition is an addition. Like, it is better for the team. So yeah, the Panthers, a little bit more competitive, a little bit uptick in the win-loss record for me as well, but not super competitive at this time.
Yeah. All right, man. So then that takes us to our last team in the division. My number 3 seed in the NFC, I have the Buccaneers finishing at 12-5, 5-1 in the division.
I also have the Bucs at 12-5. However, they're the 2 seed.
Oh, wow. You got them all the way up to the 2 seed. Okay.
Got them up to the 2 seed, barely edging out the Rams, who also are 12-5 from our episode where we went over the NFC West. Look, Buccaneers, obviously this Tristan Wirfs news is concerning. Yeah. However, you have a guy in Baker who can be more mobile and has played behind offensive lines there with the Bucs in the past that have had some leaky parts. I like a lot of what this offense has. Look, Bucky Irving, I'm a big fan of Bucky Irving. I believe he's taken over that number 1 running back role there for him. Who knows if Godwin's really going to contribute, but they've got good players. Obviously Mike Evans, super steady, super reliable. Yards. You're getting some stuff from McMillan at receiver, who's a rookie last year, probably going to take a step and move more into Godwin's role. Their tight end, who I can't remember his name right now, but I know that he was fantastic for me down the stretch in fantasy.
Right?
Cade Otton.
That is
Cade Otton. Yeah, he looks to be like a pretty solid receiving tight end as well. That offense has some good pieces, and then the defense. Look, Todd Bowles always puts together a scrappy defense. They've got some really interesting defenders, especially in the backfield when they're able to stay healthy. Antoine Winfield. So this Bucs team, I think that they have an easy path as far as who they play in their division. They easily, and I'm not sure if I had them sweeping their division, but they easily could sweep their division. I think you said you had them 5-1.
5-1 in their division.
Yeah. So I absolutely can see 5-1, 6-0 in their division. If you get a baked in 6 wins and you only have to get 6 more in your other games to get to 12-5, that's a pretty easy route to get yourself number 1 in the NFC South, but also pretty high up when it comes to the actual standings for the playoffs there, which is why I got them in second.
Yeah, so I have them picking on their division at 5-1, which means they're going to get 7 wins outside of that, and they're 7 or how many other fucking guys? I'm not doing the math, but I expect that they will really kind of take advantage of that. Baker, I think, is kind of finally he's stepping into that leader franchise role type guy. You hear his interviews; he's starting to understand the role that he is. The Tristan Wirfs news sucks, and that could obviously change my projections here and your projection as well at 12-5. They're going to have to be able to find a way to fill that gap while he is gone. And that's tough to do, but I like the way they improve their defense as well. I think this Bucs team showed a lot of fight last year. Bucky Irving, you brought him up, is a very dynamic back. They're going to score some points, and I feel like this is that moment where Baker is going to take that step forward.
And just revisiting this Bucs draft class, I forgot how much I actually really liked it. First pick, Emeka Egbuka. They go out there and get Benjamin Morrison, who was considered by many to be a first-round caliber cornerback to help with that depth. And Jacob Parrish, who was my favorite slot-style cornerback in the draft. So they've definitely retooled that defensive backfield a little bit. Those are all fantastic additions there. And I did have them going 5-1 as well in the division for my picks.
All right. Hey, well, look at that. We agree on that one. All right, man, let's transition over to the AFC side. AFC South. This is another division that I think is going to suck absolute dick. So I'll go ahead and get it started off. The Titans are going to be really bad. Again, I do not have them as the worst team in football. That went to the Giants. But I do have them being really bad at 3-14, 1-5 in their division. I just don't like the makeup of this team. I don't know that Cam Ward is going to be enough to take them over the hump because they don't have a ton of wide receiver help. They have good running backs. I like their running game, but this is a team that is not necessarily predicated on a strong running game and defense anymore. This is a team that typically likes to try to throw the ball based on their head coach. So I don't know that where they're headed is gonna fix anything real fast. Cam does not have enough weapons to make huge strides. I think he's in for a really tough year down there in Tennessee.
All right. My fourth place team is the Jags. I got them at 6-11, but I also have the Titans at 6-11 as well. Jags, however, fourth place with 2 divisional wins. I'm not sold on Liam Cohen, especially after that Duval comment. It just feels like he's fucking awkward. Like, obviously, the guy was able to put together some pretty competent offenses in his past, most recently with Tampa Bay. But I feel like he's awkward. I don't know how he's going to control that locker room off the rip. And so I'm a little bit concerned about the head coaching position. They go out there and get Ted McMillan with that first pick, but they've got to make moves to get him. So that kind of straps their draft a little bit. And while I think Travis Hunter. While I think Travis Hunter is obviously an extremely talented player, can play on both sides of the football. They need that help on both sides of the football. We need to see Trevor Lawrence actually live up to that draft position this year. I think he's got all the talent in the world. He's had really weird situations with bad coaching staffs and bad squads around him. A lot of excuses, injuries and stuff like that. But you've got a pretty solid receiving core there. You've got to make use of it. The offensive line, I'm not super sold on being very good. Running back room, Etienne can't stay healthy. I'm not sold on that running back room. So I think the offense is going to become a little bit one-dimensional, and it's going to revolve around Travis Hunter in the passing game. And I think that once you become one-dimensional on an offense, that's where defenses in the NFL start to pick you apart. And on the flip side, that defense, I think the secondary is pretty terrible. Yeah, Travis Hunter could help there, but again, I don't know that he's going to play full time. You're going to start to burn him out at some point. I know it's been a big talking point about him, and that he thinks that he can play full time both sides, but it's the NFL, man. It's different. And I just don't think that's going to be possible. And I'm not super stoked on a whole lot of the pieces that they have on that defense. So I think they're going to be a middling team, getting a new scheme, new systems, new coaches, all that stuff kind of put together. So I got them going 6-11.
All right. So my number 3 team, I have the Jags. I have them at 4-13, though. I have them a little worse than you do. 2-4 in the division. A lot of the things that you said. Travis Hunter, I think, is going to be a good player. I think he can help on both sides. There's obviously been a lot of talk, a lot of videos that have come out that said maybe Travis isn't going to be that great. Maybe he's not. Who knows? I just don't think that there's enough on this team to run the ball, to protect, and to play defense. Trevor Lawrence is going to have to absolutely light up the scoreboard. He's going to have to prove that he is the former number 1 pick, because I just don't know that they have enough around as a team to help him. That running game, for all the things that they thought that they were going to be able to get out of an Etienne and different pieces, it just has never been efficient for this team and for Trevor Lawrence. I'm not sure that he's ever had as the semblance of a legit running game. So what is the ask? To put the whole team on his back again? I don't think he's going to be able to do it. So I got them going I'm down all the way down at 4-13.
All righty. And then so Titans for me, like I said, they're third place also at 6-11, but they were able to get 3 wins within the division because it isn't a very good division there. Titans, look, I am buying into, I think that they're a bad team. I do think that they're a bad team, but I am buying into a little bit of the hype of what Cam Ward could be. Look, this is a chance for Callahan to get a quarterback that he wants. Now he's kind of pigeonholed into that decision because Will Levis was not the guy. And you didn't have a ton of options at the top end, depending on your thoughts about Shedeur Sanders. You didn't have the options at the top end to do anything other than go after who is viewed as the best quarterback, and that was Cam Ward. Now that I'm hearing a lot of glowing things about him mostly from the Titans' perspective. So you have to take all that with a grain of salt. But I think that he can be a good quarterback. He can be a competent quarterback if he doesn't get ruined by that bad roster that's around him. He does have some weapons. Calvin Ridley being kind of the top one.
I mean, it's fucking Ghost for what, 6 straight weeks?
Yeah, he obviously had a pretty bad year last year.
Now, granted,
and
Will Levis was playing quarterback.
Yeah, but we brought this up on our shows last year because I had Calvin Ridley on my fantasy.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't the fact that Will Levis wasn't getting the ball. It's the fact that he just wasn't catching the fucking ball. So hopefully an off season with a quarterback that he can feel a little more confident about will help them out there. But I still expect this team to be pretty bad. It is a team to me that has the number 1 overall pick and goes after a quarterback, and I'm not expecting to see a tremendous jump in year 1. I think that it's going to take some maturation both from the quarterback, the system, and building players around them to actually see good dividends from that pick. And as of right now, that's leaving me with 6-11 for the Titans. Again, a little bit scrappy. We'll see some good things from Cam Ward, but overall, that roster just isn't there to support him and getting past a 6-win team.
All right. I assume that we're going to be saying the second team here is probably the same. Colts.
Got the Colts at number 2.
Okay, so I know our records are going to be very different, though, based on the way your numbers have already started, because I have the Colts being absolutely ass again, like being mega ass, just like the Jags. I got them at 4-13, 3-3 in the division. I have no idea who's going to play quarterback. They don't know either, as far as I can tell. What has changed? What situation has changed other than the fact that instead of Joe Flacco being the problem, now Danny Dimes is the problem, or there's a distraction? I don't think that anything about their situation has changed.
Yeah, like the wild card is Anthony Richardson. Sounds like he might be able to play at the beginning of the year, but obviously he's dealing with some injuries, and that's been the story with him his entire NFL career so far, along with the fact that he has an incredible arm that he can't hit the broadside of a barn with. If he somehow is able to wrangle that in and get closer to a Josh Allen as far as their trajectory of wrangling in that accuracy, the sky could be the limit for the Colts. I mean, I think that they have a good offensive line, although multiple starters were poached by my Vikings from that offensive line. The guys who are replacing them are younger and have some upside, so that's decent there. They have a really good running back in Jonathan Allen. I like their offensive weapons that they have at receiver and tight end. The question does come down to quarterback. Danny Dimes, I think, is going to be their starter week 1. And I think that until he has implosion games and Anthony Richardson is back, that we're probably going to see Danny Dimes be the quarterback there. And it kind of fits the mold of what Shane Steichen needs and wants. Steichen had Jalen Hurts, who is not a prolific passer, but he's able to work within the system and is a solid runner. Danny Dimes, we know, is Vanilla Vic. He's a solid runner. He doesn't necessarily have it between the ears. And with that Giants team a couple years ago, they made the playoffs and won a playoff game.
True. That's true.
And so he's going to be surrounded by weapons. He just got out of Kevin O'Connell's quarterback rehab school, albeit for a short amount of time. So I'm banking on that helping them a little bit. The defense, they added guys like my Vikings, Cam Bynum, that backfield. Also some other defensive additions in the backfield, their defensive backfield. So I think that their defense is probably going to be middling, average, but that offense has the potential to be efficient and put some points up more so than in previous years. Because, I mean, you know as well as anyone else, Joe Flacco has an arm on him, but he can be a little bit wild. He's not Jameis Winston, but, he's not uber reliable. And I think that with Danny Dimes, you have a relatively low ceiling, but that ceiling is definitely manageable if he plays within structure, within a system. So I have the Colts going 7-10, only one better than the 3rd and 4th place teams.
Okay.
So not a great year because of that instability at the quarterback position. Like I said, I am bought into Danny Dimes being the best quarterback that they've had there in a while, but that still doesn't make him really good. So that's why I could see the variance on this projection is feels like the highest to me of anyone here in the AFC South. Like this could be a 2-win team. Or they could maybe, if they hit all their benchmarks and outperform, I could see them being 9-10 wins. And that's if that quarterback rehab school really worked for Danny Dimes. If he actually is able to look like a decent above average quarterback. And that's
Anthony Richardson found out how to fucking throw an accurate football.
Absolutely. Like I said, that's a big if. That's why I got him at 7-10. I'm banking a little bit more towards the average or the lower end of that.
Yeah. All right. So moving on. Texans in number 1 for me. They are the number 4 seed. I have a stacked top heavy AFC. I have them at 14-3, and they are the number 4 seed. I think they sweep their division. This is going to be a cakewalk for them. We've seen the sophomore slump. Now we're going to see that resurgence, that junior year for CJ Stroud. I think he really takes a leap forward. His receivers should be healthy. Running game should be a nice piece. That defense is getting more mature. They're well-rounded. I think this team, as long as CJ goes back and takes that step back up, they're going to be fucking spectacular this year.
Yeah, and so obviously I got the Texans as my 1 seed as well. I had them doing a little bit worse. I got them at 11-6, and they are actually the 3rd seed in my AFC because that 11-6 is the same record as the Denver Broncos, who are playing a much tougher division for me. Texans have a little bit of an easier walk to that 11-6 because of their division. That being said, I agree with pretty much everything that you said about the Texans. I like their run game. I like the receivers. I like their defense, and I like their quarterback. I think that they might have the worst offensive line in all of football, though. And that's the problem, is that if they are able to get competent offensive line play, you could see a lot of spectacular things, passing and running. I just don't know that it's going to be there. It's still good enough for them to get to 11-6, but I think that it's not going to be the junior year slump for CJ Stroud. It's going to be, can CJ Stroud navigate around an extremely porous offensive line? We've seen other teams do it.
To Nick Chubb. Trust me, just turn around, hand the ball to Nick Chubb, and all will be fine, CJ.
Well, Joe Mixon also did well behind a shitty offensive line.
Exactly.
With the Bengals.
Both of those dudes running is going to be really nice for them.
Yeah, it's a situation, again, a team that's getting to 11-6, but like that offensive line, I think is going to be the kind of nail in the coffin at the end of the season for them. It's not going to stop them from getting the 1st seed, but it is going to kind of limit their ultimate potential when you hit playoff time going up against truly competent teams. I like the Texans, but that offensive line just scares the hell out of me. It was already bad. And then the additions that they brought in Ingram from my Vikings, probably to compete for a starting job. And that guy is terrible. And then they trade away Laramie Tunsil, who, while he is a penalty machine, he also was the best piece on that offensive line. You don't have much of an answer to replace him. So, yeah, definitely big question marks for me with that Texas O-line, and that's what's going to hold them back. Still gets them at 11-6 and 1st in their division.
All right, man. Well, that wraps it up for our South divisions. We made it through everything, man. MLB All-Star Game, Kershaw, Cousins, the top 10 edge rushers, Joey Chestnut, Adrien Peterson, Najee Harris, Tristan Wirfs on the pup, and man, a little bit of that collusion. So this was a good show, man. Coming up on 90 minutes. We got through a ton of shit, brother. I appreciate you very much. And to everybody tuning in right now, thank you all so much for coming by. This is Raw Dawg Sports. We will be back next week. We come to you guys hopefully every week. And when football season kicks around, we'll be coming to you twice a week because we like to do a lot of gambling on this show. But we're going to get the fuck out of here. Before we do that, though, Evo, give the people one last word.
To my boys who are back in Ohio, I love you. I already miss you. Can't wait to see you again. And again, for everyone tuning in today, we appreciate you. Hopefully you appreciate our raw authenticity with our takes and our thoughts and the bullshit that we do. Sorry, Dunkin, put you on blast. We'll see who gets clapped next week.
Hell yeah. Guys, thank you very much. This is Raw Dawg Sports. I'm Mike. That's Evo. We'll be back next week. Stay tuned.